Hi, my name is Heather Rates, and this is an effective learning community. So first off, we are going to talk about the ideal classroom in terms of classroom management and positive behavior supports. And then we're going to look at evidence-based strategy. And then finally, we will conclude our presentation with procedures for arranging the educational environment. So first off, the ideal classroom. My ideal classroom is one that clearly states all of the classroom rules as well as school rules positively around the classroom for the students, and as well as displaying those rules and procedures for following the rules. The teacher goes through and explicitly teaches those rules and what those rules look like and sound like. And then they will have the students practice those rules. And this is something that will lay the groundwork for behavior later on throughout the entire year. And so if teachers don't do this or stress these rules and procedures within the first 2 weeks of class, then it will just set them up for a whole year of struggling with behavioral issues. So it is really important for teachers to take the time to go over these rules and expectations and what these rules look like and how to follow these rules, as well as providing rewards for these rules. Okay, so that brings me into having high expectations for students. Students do well when they know the expectations that you have for them, and this can be through showing your objectives on the board and talking about how these students are going to meet these objectives, as well as having high standards for your classroom behaviors, which you will discuss while you are modeling and teaching your classroom rules. So once you go through there, you will explain that you are in so-and-so grade. So for example, you're in third grade, you should be able to do this by now. You're a big student, so I'm giving you some freedom, but with that freedom, I'm giving you the responsibility of knowing what's right and wrong and how to maintain that freedom. Okay, so then are clearly and explicitly taught and modeled procedures. So again, going over once you have stated your rules around your room, you're going to go ahead and explicitly teach what those rules look like when students are following those rules, and then also general procedures around the classroom. This will help you and your students know exactly what to do when you ask them to follow directions, and teachers need to understand or have an idea of what that looks like in your head before you even tell your students, so that you can envision exactly what you want your students to be completing when, and the rules with following those procedures, so that when you are describing this to your students, you are very clear, you're very positive in stating this, and then they are able to follow this exactly to how you want it. And then again, within the first 2 weeks of school, definitely be teaching these procedures and have students practice these procedures and maybe review every now and then to make sure that the students get it. So later on in the year, when you ask them to go and grab a pencil or procedure for transitioning in between classes, it will go very fast and they will get the hang of it. And then lastly, the arrangement of the classroom environment. So this is, for me, the arrangement of the classroom environment is one that encourages and motivates students to want to learn. So there's posters all around the room that give them motivation, such as "you can do this," and other school inspirational quotes, as well as positive vibes that you get from the feeling. So it's kid-friendly, kid-sized furniture, kid-cozy areas for them to read, carpets, lots of lighting if they need lots of lighting, and then also have an area for students that are sensory sensitive, And then for students who get distracted easily, also have an area of the room that they can go to where they can focus on their work and only their work, and they are not being distracted by all of the different stimulus or stimuli that are around the room. Okay, so for positive behavior support, this is where you are reinforcing behaviors with um, positive reinforcements or negative reinforcements where you're giving something or you're taking it away. So this is used instead of punishment because punishment we have known is not very effective in increasing positive behaviors or decreasing negative behaviors. And when we use positive behavior support, that is actually shown to increase the desired behaviors and decrease or cause undesirable behaviors to go extinct. So this is very important. When you are using positive behavior support, you are either giving students what they want or what they desire to increase that behavior or occurrence of that behavior, or you're taking away to also increase that behavior or to possibly be decreasing an undesirable behavior. So such examples are creating a token economy. So you provide tokens for students when they, as rewards when they do well in class or show good behaviors, and you do this after they exhibit the positive behavior that you want. And then you can also take those tokens away if they're exhibiting your undesirable behaviors. So applied behavioral analysis and functional behavioral assessment is where you are seeing some undesirable behaviors in your classroom, and you're trying to decide where these behaviors may be coming from. So when you're looking at when you are trying to make a behavior go away that you may not want, you need to understand what is causing this behavior to occur in the first place. And so these two, applied behavioral analysis, will kind of break down the process of the behavior that is occurring, and then also to determine or to develop a plan on how to modify that behavior. And then providing students with the right tools is giving them the right skills that they need to succeed in your class and across all other areas in their lives. So giving them skills to communicate effectively, to work with others, to communicate their needs effectively, and then just general academic skills. So you are creating or establishing those skills with students so that later on down the line they are able to succeed. So if something happens, or later on in the year, if something happens, there's that and a discourse happens later on in the year, some changes that you can do is to adjust the environment. So depending on what occurs, so if students are getting too overstimulated or stimulated with the environment, like there's too much going on, they can't find the right posters to help them in their classes, just try and readjust the environment by taking down some posters or maybe rearrange student furniture to help give students like a different seating arrangement if they aren't cooperating well with their partners. And then also be changing instructions, so offering different ways to for students to show their work, and then go over your procedures and how you want these students to complete their procedures. And if students encounter social difficulties, again, review your expectations and what the classroom rules are regarding social behavior in your classroom and in the school, and then maybe make modifications to how you instruct, so maybe incorporate more socialization groups so that students work together more often and continue to work on those skills, or just change up the group arrangement if students are not effectively working together at all and are unable to come to an agreement. So next up we have an evidence-based strategy. This is ASSET. So I chose ASSET, which is Social Skills Programs for Adolescents. And this goes over teaching the social skills, so giving students the tools that they need to succeed, such as giving positive feedback, negative feedback, accepting negative feedback, and then resisting peer pressure, problem solving, negotiating, following instructions, and conversations. So I would implement this into my class by teaching the skills that they need explicitly, and then probably following the module videos, modeling for the students what each of those skills looks like, and then having the students practice themselves with a partner or in small groups. And then I would have the students review with the students if we come across any issues that they're having with any of the skills within that module. And then some positive impacts that I think this would have on the classroom would be to initiate and to maintain conversations, which is very important, especially in today's day and age, because a lot of texting kind of takes away from actual communication skills. The ability to accept criticism is huge, especially for students who have fixed mindsets that can't accept negative feedback or criticism. Students learn to compromise, especially for younger grades. This is very important, and it carries on into adulthood. Effectively following directions, so learning how to take apart directions and following those effectively, and then applying these skills across different areas in their life, so generalizing these skills, and then applying them in the real world as well, so at home, outside of school, etc. So some concerns I would have is, again, if students have a fixed mindset, they may not accept the negative feedback or criticism that well, so it could cause some problems, but I think overall it would do the students a benefit to be able to do this. Okay, so procedures for arranging the educational environment I kind of talked about a little bit earlier, but spacing is really important. Students need a lot of room to move around, especially in the younger grades, even in the older grades, because they're a lot bigger of students. They need to be able to put their backpacks down. They need to be able to have space for their materials and spaces for them to read, spaces for them for do different group works around the classroom, so independent group, large group, and small group. And then I also think that it is important to have cool down centers. So this is where students go when they are being overstimulated or having behavioral problems where they may be acting out in order to get attention or to leave the classroom in general, but to keep the students in the classroom where you can keep an eye on them, but to take away all stimulation and just let them sit, cool down, do some reflective thinking, and then either write about that or just to fidget with maybe different, like if you have a fidget spinner for students that just need to let off some steam and just think and do that. I think that's really important to have in your classroom. And then also not only the spacing and arrangement of furniture in your classroom, but also the colors are really important to me. So if you have a lot going on, it can be very distracting to many different students. So like pictured here, I really like how they keep an overall color scheme across the room while also giving color. They have fun little areas for students to go and read that have cozy carpets. They have live plants. They have really well lit areas as well as some like darker areas if students are too sensitive to the light. And then I think that this classroom really gives off a positive image and positive message about learning, and this is a fun environment. This is an encouraging environment. It says explore up on top. Anything that you can do in your classroom to make your classroom more inviting to students is really important. And then also to have a visual schedule for students who need it, and to make sure that all your materials are available in the classroom. All right, thank you.